Tuesday, January 23rd. We'll start with roll call.
Barbara Stockhausen,
Yes.
Ken Killian,
Here.
Eileen Nichols,
Here.
Tom Nall,
Here.
Catherine Westaby,
Here.
Barbara Doss,
Here.
Don Francis.
Here.
Or anyone in the audience this evening that would like to make a comment during our citizens' comments, observations, and petitions section, there is a small green sheet of paper over there on the table, and we would ask that you would fill that out with your name and address and what you would like to speak about, and then she will hand it to me. First item is consideration of the consent calendar. The following items may be approved on a single motion and vote due to their routine nature or previous discussion. Please indicate to the council president if you would prefer separate discussion. And A is council minutes from the January 9 regular meeting. B is payment of bills. C is appointments to boards and commissions. There are none this evening. D is licenses, 1-year and 2-year operator license to sell or serve alcohol. E is the MHTC building.
I move we accept the consent calendar as published.
Second, we'll vote.
Stockhausen,
Yes.
Killian,
Yes.
Nichols,
Yes.
Nall,
Yes.
Westaby,
Yes.
Doss,
Yes.
Francis.
Yes.
Next is citizens' comments, observations, and petitions. We have not had anyone register to speak, except that I have been told that our Public Works Director, Howard Crowfoot, would like to make a statement.
Thank you. Council members, you may see an article in the Telegraph Herald regarding the application for a new well called well number 6. This is a replacement for our well number 4. Well number 4 is a 50-year-old well up by Westview Park. Well 4 is on limited use due to air in the water. This is not a health issue, it just looks cloudy. This was caused by holes in the casing allowing air to mix with the water like a fish tank aerator. We hired Strand to look at options, came up with 3 options. The first was to rehabilitate the well. This process can cost up to $60,000 per effort, but it only lasts 18 to 24 months at a time. We tried once already and it started deteriorating after about the 18 to 24 month period. We could grout and re-drill the current well 4. It would entail dismantling the building, grouting the hole shut, and re-drilling the well with a cost estimate of $275,000. But there's no guarantee that that will end up solving our problems because the grout could still come loose and things like that. The third option would be to abandon or plug well number 4 and drill well number 6. This would be a new well a few hundred feet south of the current building in Westview Park, pipe it into the current building so that we could still reuse the equipment that's in there. Cost estimate of $525,000, and it would be a brand new well with an expected life of 80 to 100 years. This option was selected. Now, if this application is approved by both the Public Service Commission and the Department of Natural Resources here in the next 4 to 6 weeks, it will be online in the fall of 2018. There is no effect on our water and sewer ratepayers. We're using reserve funds to pay for this project. I just want to make sure that everybody understands that this has been discussed extensively by the Water and Sewer Commission, but we wanted to bring the council and public up to date, especially with the fact that the article is coming out soon.
Do you have any questions?
Thank you.
I might just for the council's benefit, just to let you know that we have Lifeline working on an estimate for the sound system in this room. So it is something that we are aware of the challenges, and we're in the process of soliciting a quote related to it.
Great, thank you. Next is reports in our packet. Museum Board, Westaby.
Nothing to add.
Water and Sewer Commission, Killian.
No addition.
Historic Preservation Commission, Killian.
No addition.
Community Safe Routes Committee, Westerby.
Nothing to add?
Housing Authority Board, Killian. Airport Commission, Dawes.
Just to remind everybody that this weekend on Saturday is the ski plane fly-in at the airport. I believe it's from 10 until 2, or there in the, it's on the city website. And there's also chili, so it's the ski plane fly-in and chili feed at the airport. So could be it's going to be a busy day in Platteville because there's a lot of other activities going on too. But be fun to see ski planes come in, maybe, or maybe not.
Parks, Forestry, and Recreation Committee, Francis.
Nothing to add.
And
Thing for the museum?
Yes, there's actually 2 other activities that I know of on Saturday. One is the Involvement Fair, and I think we've all heard about that at the Platteville Public Library in the community room. And I believe the council is going to have, the city council is going to have a table relative to recruiting volunteers for boards, commissions, and committees. And several other of the organizations in the community are going to be there to talk about what they do and to seek new members. And then in the afternoon at the museum, there's a land surveying and mapping of old lead mines that Tracy Roberts is doing. There is a registration requested for the afternoon session at the museum. I'm sure you can find that online at the Jameson and Rolla, at the Mining and Rolla Jameson Museum site. And if you need more information about the Involvement Fair, I'm sure that the library has that information.
There should be information on the city's website for both those activities as well, if you click under community calendar.
I can tell you that the Involvement Fair begins at 10 and goes until 1. I know that Barb Dawes and I are going to be there, and we would welcome other council members to stop in during that time and meet and greet people. And the museum, I know, the event is geared toward teens and adults. So, children. All right, anybody else have any other items they want to mention? Lots of stuff going on. On to the first action item, the development agreement for St. Augustine's redevelopment project. Joe?
Yes, the St. Augustine redevelopment project was approved as a plan unit development back in June of 2016. There were several conditions that were included as part of that approval, one of which was the approval of a development agreement, city and the developer. And that agreement, the draft is attached. But basically, the agreement it's kind of a standard procedure that we have with our plan unit developments. It includes language in that includes all the details of the approval from the plan unit development, and it has our standard language when we have projects that have work within the right of way. Make sure there's security included in that, and the city has a chance to review that work and approve that work. So for the most part, that type of language is pretty much standard for what we do with those types of projects. Otherwise, it's putting into writing what you have already agreed to. The additional, a unique, I guess, condition was some language related to the pilot agreement, which is the next item on the agenda. But staff would recommend approval of the development agreement.
Comments or questions, anyone?
So Joe, there were 8 conditions that were included in the June approval. I tried to read through all of that development agreement to track, in fact, if all of those had been. So one of those was the architectural detail material changes on the south and west facades. So is that included in the development agreement?
The agreement refers to the notes and the conditions that were included in there, and the developer has actually included some updated drawings where that has been included in the revised project. Some of the other conditions have already been taken care of through a separate approval. For instance, the certified survey map was already done, and there's some other agreements that will have to be done separately, such as a pilot agreement.
And I saw the references in the development agreement to the parking, so
Right.
it was just that I never did see in the development agreement anything about architectural west and south facades. And I don't think, I had drawings, at least I don't.
I didn't include all the attachments just because of the volume of material, but that will be part of the actual agreement.
Other questions or comments?
I have a few comments. This is talking about PUDs. The definition of PUD is in the city code, page 137. This is in, I believe, 22.07. Chapter 20 of the city code lists planned unit development starting with the year 1999. A former city manager told me that he thought that Platteville had very few, if any, planned unit developments. The extensive use of the planned unit development approach prompted me to do a more thorough study of what a PUD is. I started this study, excuse me, some time ago, and I did some more just lately. Omitting those PUDs before 2010, I would agree that some projects are not PUDs. So I'd like to look at the recent ones. In 2011, Washington Place Apartments, which is near Center Street and Washington Street, or Avenue, whatever it is, that has about 100 beds in it. Roundtree Commons has 600 plus beds in it. And now we have the St. Augustine's redevelopment project, which has 144. At the last council meeting, I talked about quasi-PUDs. Quasi here means that something has a resemblance. So quasi to me means that it has some resemblance to a PUD, but it's not a PUD. Another definition from another dictionary is having a likeness to something, resembling. And the last one I have is having some resemblance, usually by possession of certain attributes. I see with the PUD that there's often lessening of important code requirements that we have for the city of Platteville. I think one of these with the St. Augustine development is the matter of landscaping. I addressed that last year already, pointing out that there's very little landscaping as far as vegetation being done for this proposed redevelopment. Another thing that is, I think, not good for this development is the setback from the street. Setbacks were discussed, as I recall, quite a bit, and so that gives the appearance that you're trying to push a development into a small area. And the other thing is the parking requirements. St. Augustine does not have enough on-site parking, adjacent parking. The parking becomes more prominent in appearance as compared to the previous parking around that site, around that block. So all three of these increase the number of persons living in a small area of land. And they don't really provide anything in the way of open space. I view a PUD as something that you put things together, then that allows other things to be added. That may occur in the form of open space, may occur in the form of shopping, it may be occurring in different types of housing. But this development, as well as Roundtree Commons, as well as Washington Place Apartments, they have simply pushed people together, and there's not much in the way of landscaping, there's not much in the way of anything to really make it look like a PUD. I think of a PUD as a tract of land in which the uses are centered together, put together, and so that others in the remaining portion can be used for something else. But in looking at this, maybe it's like grading a test, and I've graded a lot of tests. After a while, after you've read the wrong answer for a long time, you begin to wonder if that's really the right answer. So far, I've not gotten to that point with PUDs. I think we're on the wrong approach for many of these, and I think that the three I've given here are examples of PUDs, which are not really PUDs. Thank you.
The question before us this evening is the development agreement with St. Augustine's redevelopment project. Is there other comments? Otherwise, is there a motion on the development agreement?
I make a motion, we approve the development agreement. I make a motion, we approve this piece.
St. Augustine
Yeah, for the
redevelopment
St.
project.
Augustine. Yeah.
Is there a second?
A second.
We have a motion and a second? We'll vote.
Stockhausen,
Yes.
Killian,
No. I've
Nichols?
given my reasons for the no.
Schultz,
Yes.
Knoll,
Yes.
Westaby,
Yes.
Doss,
Yes.
Francis.
Yes.
All right. Next item is the pilot agreement for St. Augustine. Oh, did you have anything you wanted to add on this?
Specific, unless anybody has any questions.
All right, we've had the development agreement to look at. Does anyone have any questions on this pilot agreement?
It's my understanding that the pilot agreement only comes into play if the project is determined to be tax exempt.
Correct.
And if not, then the property would be assessed and pay taxes as any other property.
Correct.
And we understand from our information, Joe, that the owners have proposed that it would be tax exempt, but the assessor is looking at, it meets the qualifications.
Correct. The developer has provided the information to the assessor is reviewing it, and they make that determination. Make sure it is tax exempt, it meets qualifications.
Okay, and he has to have the application in, the owner, by March 1. So my question is, why are we voting early? We don't even know whether it's tax exempt.
We're not voting early, we're just developing, and that was part of our series of 8 things that we, in June of 2016, among the 8 conditions we said was that we would develop a pilot agreement in the event that it was determined to be tax exempt. I have another question. Is there an annual review of tax exempt status, or is there evidence needed every year to maintain that status, or is it a 2-year or a 4-year or a 6-year or a 10-year, or what is is there a designation period or what?
I'm not certain on that, but I believe that there would always be the opportunity for the assessor to review the project if there's a change in circumstances regarding how that property is functioned and used.
Because I know that at one point in time, Jenner Towers was a tax exempt unit in the city, but then more recently it is not.
Correct.
And I'm not exactly sure how we know what triggers that change. If it's up to us to say we don't believe this is a tax exempt property anymore, or if it's up to...
Yeah, I know, for example, the Jenner Towers one, they had a change in the occupancy for the tenants of that property. They were strictly low-income elderly housing, and that situation changed, so that triggered the change in that particular property. I assume the assessor would have to, get the information, make a determination if there's some change relevant. I assume they would also be looking to city staff to help guide them and give them the information that they might need for a decision.
So when the assessor says something's tax exempt, there isn't.
I don't think there's an automatic,
There's not an automatic
after 1
review.
year, they have to take a look at it. I don't know, that would be up to the assessor to determine if they've got an internal procedure to follow.
I guess I'd be interested in hearing that perhaps.
I read the statutes, and after reading them, I get the idea that it's not an automatic thing, but it can be done. As far as the city doing it, I get the impression that that could be done there also by the city. At least we could start it. I do have some comments about the pilot. If no one else has questions. Okay, my first thing is who was working on the pilot? I read in the various reports that the city attorney, Brian McGraw, was working on the pilot, and the city manager was involved with it. So was this a cooperative thing between city manager and the city attorney? Or was it a matter that the city attorney pretty much followed the agreement, the pilot that was written for Roundtree Commons, followed that as a boilerplate?
I think I can answer that. I do think that there probably was language that the city attorney used from previous pilot agreements, but a team that included myself, Joe Carroll, and Nicola Maurer reviewed the agreement and worked with the city attorney. We do a lot of work in a team environment.
My next question is who, we have a name here, Hickory Street Housing LLC. Was there a contact person from the Hickory Street Housing LLC that worked with the city staff during the formation of the writing of the pilot agreement?
Well, we worked with Mr. Steve Harms, who's in the audience tonight.
Who, please?
Mr. Steve Harms, who's in the audience tonight.
Oh, okay. Well, I was given this information about Hickory Street Housing LLC, and I don't know if it's correct or not, but anyway, it's on the internet, and not everything on the internet is necessarily true. But anyway, the Hickory Street Housing LLC was registered November 18, 2014. It's a domestic limited liability company. It has a registered agent. The agent is Jonathan L. Schuster, 2 East Mifflin Street, Suite 200, Madison, Wisconsin. The principal office is 135 South Hickory Street, which is St. Augustine's. Now, Jonathan L. Schuster is a partner in the Axley Law Firm. There are about 50 members in the firm. Our city attorney is a partner in the same firm. And my question is, how is this viewed? The city attorney is in this firm, and Jonathan L. Schuster is in this firm, and is Jonathan L. Schuster the one that is going to be in charge as far as the Hickory Street Housing LLC? I bring this up because this is also a question for the future, because with about 50 to 60 attorneys in the Axley firm, we'll likely run into this situation again. What's going to happen here now as far as our city attorney, what's going to be his, what should we say, stance, approach as far as this document, which was made up by Brian McGraw and others, and supposedly carried out by somebody that's also in the same firm. And there are other questions that I asked the last time. First question is, what are the total taxes for the property? If this property were not tax exempt, what are the total taxes for the property? I'm trying to find out what the city portion would be, the portion for the school district, the county, and the Southwest Technical College. When will the total taxes be known? And lastly, consider the city has no authority to grant or deny tax exemption. So that's why I bring up the question, why we even vote on this, because we don't know the answer yet. There's plenty of time to vote later. So those are my questions and comments. I guess the one I especially want to find out is, who is the person in charge of the LLC? And the second question is, what does the LLC consist of? Is it a couple people? Is it many people? Is it investment people? What are we dealing with?
Ben, can I interrupt for a second? If you have a concern that the same law firm is representing the city, and also a person in that law firm is representing the applicant, there is a situation where there can be a special letter written of where there's no distinction, separate parties. So you don't have to worry about that, as it can be done through the attorney to take care of that. So there's no conflict of interest.
Writes the letter.
I guess I could interject here that we were notified by the Axley Law Firm that there was another attorney that was representing Hickory Street in this situation. And you're right, that is going to come up more often. It is a larger law firm. But our city attorney's obligation is to represent us under his code of ethics. He could probably speak more clearly to this the next time he's here. It might be a good thing for the council to hear. But we also, when we get those letters, we could choose to seek outside counsel at that time. We didn't feel that this warranted outside counsel, given that it was primarily drafted by our previous city attorney.
Okay, thank you. Is there any answer to ask to what Hickory Street housing consists of?
You'd like to come up to the microphone, introduce yourself?
I mean, a LLC could be one person. I know LLCs that are one person, two persons, or maybe a whole bunch.
Yeah, I'm Steve Harms with Tri-North Builders and also MDC Holdings. We're the developer of the project as well as the construction manager. The LLC is owned by a single member, which is St. Augustine Parish. So if you look up the LLC, it is owned by St. Augustine Parish. So that's a single member ownership of an LLC. So there's no other partners, there's no other outside investors. It's wholly owned by the parish. And the one who has authority for the parish is whoever the pastor is, which in this case is Father John Del Prior. He's vice president, something or other. I don't remember what the full title is, but it's Father John who's the one officer who can sign and execute agreements for the LLC.
His name is listed on the development agreement that we just, so it is on the development agreement, Ken? Father John Del Prairie. Does that answer your question, Ken?
It's in the development agreement.
It's on the last page of the developer's agreement, and obviously it's the same Hickory Street Housing LLC is on the pilot agreement.
the reason I asked the question, because I've been getting different stories as far as what the LLC consists of.
Answer.
Oh, okay. And then last time I emphasized or expressed my concern that this pilot agreement was not fair to many people in the city of Platteville, not fair to other landlords that pay the full taxes, not fair to the rest of the citizens of Platteville that have to pay taxes, and likely make up the difference, whatever you want to say, not fair to the school district, not fair to the county, not fair to Southwest Technical College. So I believe for the sake of fairness, this agreement would not be allowed. They should be paying the full share. Roundtree Commons, as mentioned by the city manager, is the other one with a pilot agreement, and they're the owners of Roundtree Commons. And we assume that they're also the owners of, what's it, Bridgeway Commons, is that the name of it? One on campus. They leased that to the university. So for the sake of fairness, I don't believe this is a good way to go. I believe that the church, whoever, should pay their fair share as far as taxes, and that's it. Thank you.
While I appreciate your comments, Ken, this really is not a decision that the local government can make. It's a state law that has to be followed in whether or not it's a nonprofit and therefore qualifies for a pilot agreement. All right, is there a motion? Any other comments on the pilot agreement? Otherwise, is there a motion?
I make a motion, we approve the pilot agreement for the St. Augustine redevelopment project.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, and we'll vote.
Stockhausen,
Yes.
Killian,
Oh,
Nichols,
Yes.
Dahl,
Yes.
Westerby,
Yes.
Doss,
Yes.
Francis.
Yes.
Carries.
Thank you for being here. All right, next is IT services contract.
So at the last meeting, we talked about the contract for IT services. We have that contract with CompuNet and have done so for some years now. And we are recommending that we continue to have our support services provided by CompuNet. They provide 24/7 proactive monitoring of PCs, servers, network devices, and network performance. They also provide PC support and maintenance, printer connectivity, server support maintenance, and they also provide some vendor management support. And we have, there is a member of their team that is on site, David Nelson, and so not any questions. We recommend approval of the contract.
Questions or comments, anyone?
Just for the city manager, has there been any of the staff that's had problems with the current system?
That's a big question, Tom. I mean, IT is very complex. We wouldn't be recommending this contract if we weren't generally satisfied with the services that were being provided. And we think that our service has improved since David Nelson was added to their team and is on site here. On any given day, can there be some small hiccups? Sure.
Just wanted to know about major problems.
Any other questions or comments?
I didn't look at the budget, which reminds me, are we going to hard copy of the budget as status of the budget as far as receiving it?
You did receive a hard copy of the budget when it was adopted, but there is also going to be what we call the GFOA budget, which is the one with a lot more content with the different departments with goals and objectives provided and various graphs and those kinds of things. And we hope to have that completed by the end of January.
Good, good. It has the revenue and expenses.
Yes, that's correct.
Pages numbered.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions or comments about the IT services contract?
It's a yearly contract? I guess I missed it if that's in here.
Yeah, yes, that's correct. It's an annual contract. And so, you know, certainly at some point, the council may request that we go out for an RFP for these services, and that's certainly something that we can do. But at this point, you know, CompuNet has, as you know, has begun working on some upgrading to some of our infrastructure with network switches and firewall, and also some new enterprise level wireless features for around the city facilities. So this did not seem the best time to go out for.
I see by the writing here that the cost is $5,900 per month, so that's about $70,000 a year.
That's correct. Yes.
That's quite a bit of change.
Yes, it is a significant cost. However, I think that it's when you think about what it would cost to have full-time staff that we would pay with all those benefits that would go with that, cost would be more to bring it in-house. But I also think that it makes sense that every once in a while we do go through the RFP process just to make sure that we are getting the best value that we can.
Tim Charles, did he retire?
Eminently, I think,
Eminently.
2nd
Now,
of February.
He worked with this,
I
and is he going to be replaced, or that?
Tim hasn't really been doing IT work. He hasn't been doing IT work since I've been here.
Okay.
He did it at one time, I think, prior to when CompuNet was involved.
I know he used to work with it. He doesn't work with it at all now. Does anybody on staff work with it?
I mean, I'm just going to look to Doug quickly. Am I correct on that? Yes, I am. Okay, good. No, we really rely on CompuNet for our IT work.
No staff person working on it. This will be coming from them. Trying to think of the man's name that.
TJ Carter, I think you're thinking of. TJ?
Yes.
There is an individual here at the,
Correct. David Nelson is on site.
yeah, is actually here.
He's a CompuNet employee, but he is here every day. And his services are available to the city, not exclusively, but I would say in the majority, he is available and on site every day.
So that's very good coverage for us to have. All right, any other questions? Otherwise, is there a motion on this contract?
I will make a motion to approve the contract renewal with
I second.
Motion and a second, we'll vote.
Stockhausen,
Yes.
Killian,
Yes.
Nichols,
Yes.
Null,
Yes.
Westoby,
yes.
Doss,
Yes.
Francis.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Next, action item 2018 city goals.
You know, I really didn't have anything additional to say about the goals. Something the council had developed as part of our planning process in conjunction with the budget. So I believe last year that you did officially adopt them. So we would ask that you do that tonight, and then we'll provide the quarterly progress updates that you've become used to.
Is there a motion?
I
Move to
move and I
approve.
second.
Second?
Yes. I second.
All right. We have a motion and a second. We'll vote.
Stockhausen,
Yes.
Killian,
Yes.
Nichols,
Yes.
Nall,
Yes.
Westerby,
Yes.
Doss,
Yes.
Francis.
Yes.
Motion carries.
That's all the action items this evening, so we'll go on to information and discussion. Official traffic map for Richard Street. Howard, are you taking that?
Sure. At the last meeting, we talked about the daycare business at 285 Richard Street and a council motion to approve this daycare, included the provision that the parking ordinances be changed to allow permit parking or 15-minute parking on both sides of Richard Street from Staley to Straw. I've looked at this, and what that would have done is it would have left the south side of Richard Street between Chestnut and Staley as permit parking only. So staff is recommending that what we do is we make all of Richard Street from Chestnut to Straw, both sides, as the 15-minute parking or permit parking, in keeping with the intent of what happened last time.
Any questions on that? All right, hearing none. We do have this evening 2 work sessions scheduled. One is on the future layout of City Hall, and the other one is city interest in the Armory Building, and we will be going off camera for that discussion.